Hey guys, welcome back. This is Kim McNamara from Read It Again Bookstore in Swanee, Georgia. Today I'm talking to Emily Carpenter and Kimberly Belle. Hey guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Oh, thank you for doing this. We were just chatting before we started. So Kimberly has a book that just came out. Emily has one coming out in the fall. But we were talking before we started that you guys actually met for the first time here at Read It Again.
Actually, we met at Milton Book Festival. Okay. I think before, isn't that? Yeah,
it was like a book club meetup kind of event, and so they had book clubs and authors that came in, and it was kind of like a speed dating setup that they could interview the authors who they wanted to meet up with. And we have a mutual friend who we know through books. Christy Barrett is her name, and she
wonderful.
Like, you have to meet Emily. Tell her how much I love her.
That's awesome.
Great. Yes.
So, okay. Well, first I need to read your intro just to say who you guys are. I'm going to start with you, Kimberly. Okay. By the way, Kimberly and I went to the same college, not at the same time, but the same college. So, you know.
Yeah. Sorry. Mine are.
Okay. Yeah. I run into Scotties all the time and they're all like, oh, you have your ring on. I don't have my ring on. And I'm like, I don't think I can take my ring off. I think it's a permanent part. By the way, if you have a comment or a question you ask these ladies, post it and I can put it in. Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy. Sandy, we met in your store.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay, let's go. Kimberly Belle is USA Today, an internationally best-selling author of 6 novels, including her forthcoming domestic suspense, which is not forthcoming, it's actually out. Stranger in the Lake. I read it. I really liked it. Her third book, Marriage Lie, was a semifinalist in the 2017 Goodreads Choice Awards for Best Mystery and Thriller, and a #1 ebook bestseller in the UK and Italy. She sold rights to her books to 12 languages, as well as film and television options. Graduate of Agnes Scott, Belle divides her time between Atlanta and Amsterdam. Yay!
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, now Emily's turn. Emily Carpenter, a former actor, producer, screenwriter, and behind-the-scenes soap opera assistant, graduated with a Bachelor of Arts from Auburn University. Born. Sorry, I'm not very good at reading. Born and raised in Birmingham, Alabama. She now lives in Georgia with her family. So, guys, welcome to Read It Again.
Thank you. So happy to be here.
Okay, so let's start with you, Kimberly, because you just had a book come out. Can you tell us about it?
Sure. So Stranger in the Lake is about a woman named Charlotte who has grown up really rough. Her mother,
Or Charlie.
Yeah, Charlie. But she calls herself Charlotte because she's trying to claw her way out of this life that she's been born into. Her mother's an addict and her father is in prison. And she meets this man. He's much older, much wealthier, and they fall in love. And despite all their differences, they're very happy until one morning a body washes up under the dock. Mm-hmm. A stranger, or so she thinks, but then it turns out that she had seen her husband talking to this woman the day prior in town. So the story really, their lives really unravel from there. And she really has to decide, you know, can she trust this husband? Did she marry the right guy? Can she trust him? Yeah,
I liked it. I did. I liked, well, like, you know, she worked in a gas station and she fell in love, and their mutual like former trauma brought them together.
Right. Exactly. Right. Because they both like had their hearts broken. His first wife had drowned in the same lake that they now live on. And, you know, she's had a really rough life, and they kind of bonded over that.
Mm-hmm. So, okay. Emily, tell us about reviving. I'm reading off the screen.
The Hawthorn Sisters.
Reviving the Hawthorn Sisters. I know. I'm still like, I want to talk about Stranger in the Lake because
Stranger in the Lake. Let's talk about your book that's coming out in October. Then we'll go back to Stranger in the Lake.
I will. So my book is Reviving the Hawthorn Sisters. Mm-hmm. It is actually the follow-up to my first novel, Burying the Honeysuckle Girls. Mm-hmm. And it's not a sequel per se, so you can read it as a standalone. You don't have to read the first book, first. But yeah, it just concerns some of the same characters. Hi, Leslie. But anyway, it's kind of it's a dual narrative set in present day and then in the past. And the story is about a woman whose grandmother was a very, very famous sort of tent evangelist and revivalist. And she comes to Alabama and she learns that her grandmother possibly was a con woman and maybe a murderer. So she was definitely involved in some shady stuff that the rest of the family didn't know about. So basically now this woman, Eve, has 3 days to figure out sort of what the real story is about her grandmother and to kind of clear their family name and preserve their legacy. And that's it. That's the book.
Really good.
Yeah,
When's that coming out?
Huh?
When's that coming out?
Okay. It's October 20th. So we've got a while, but
But in the meantime, you guys can read until the day I die, which is really good.
Yeah.
I read that while we were doing the store, like putting in new floors and putting a new counter. And I sat underneath the counter while the guy worked, and I stayed here till like 1 or 3 o'clock in the morning just reading her book.
Oh, I love it.
And that I was sitting on a hard floor because your book was so entertaining.
I love it. That's awesome. That's a good recommendation.
It made it pass. So
awesome.
Oh yeah, I listened to the audiobook. It was very good. Libro FM had it, and I really enjoyed it.
I don't know how you say her first name. C. I don't know, but she's amazing. Yeah, amazing.
Mm-hmm. No, she did a very good job. Very good. So, everybody always wants to know, what are you guys reading right now?
Mm-hmm.
I just finished Beach Read by Emily.
I'm reading that yesterday.
Oh, we talked about that too. 3 of us. It is so good. I just finished it for a book club I'm in, and
we're doing it for book club. Yeah.
Yes, it was so perfect for
this banter and the dialogue between those two.
Priceless, and it's sexy, and it's and there's heart to it. Yeah, I really love it.
I'm really enjoying it. I'm about halfway in.
Yeah.
No, I am like 10 pages in.
Yeah. I listened to that one on audio too.
Sorry, keep going.
Oh, I listened to that one on audio book too.
Yeah, I have the audio, so yeah, I'm looking forward to going home and doing that. I just got distracted by a TV show last night and didn't do it. So, but that's our next book club pick. We decided we wanted something a little lighter and beachier right now.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I needed a break from the suspense and the thrillers, and I can only read so many of those in a row, and I'm like wrapping up a draft, so my brain just needed something like completely entertaining and fun and light.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's perfect. One other book that I read that's not out until September, I think, is now I'm blanking on the title. It's Wendy Walker's new book.
Oh yeah,
right. Don't Look for Me.
Don't Look for Me. Yeah, it's over there on the shelves.
It is so good.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Here it is. Don't Look for Me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll post a link for that one too.
Out in the fall sometime. Early fall, right? Or late summer.
September.
Oh. Don't Look for Me. Okay.
That's good.
Love it.
Yeah. Kimberly, what are you reading?
Well, beach read, and then I'm also reading I'm reading it for a blurb, and now I blanked on the I don't even know the author's name. I'm sorry. I promise when I'm done with it, that I will shout it from the rooftops. It's really good, but I just don't know because it's
She comes by that honestly, though, because this woman reads voraciously.
Yeah.
I mean, Kimberly
I remember
reads.
that. Yeah, I remember that.
I do. I read a lot.
The title and author could slip your mind.
Yeah, it's someone I had never read before, which is why, I mean, normally people who I've read before, I remember their names, but this was a new author for me. I think this is her second book. So it was just someone who wasn't on my radar, although her first book was a #1 Amazon bestseller. So she's clearly done well, but I just never
picked her up.
Yeah.
Do you guys read outside your genre or read inside your genre? Read all over?
Both, yeah. But I read a lot in my genre, and for me, it's part work and part pleasure, because I want to keep abreast of what's going on in the genre, who's writing what the trends are, what kind of books are really getting the interest of readers and doing well, and which ones are kind of maybe falling a little flat. And it's very trend sensitive too, so I want to keep abreast of all that.
Yeah, which is really smart. And I think because I've my genre is a little Southern Gothic, there's not as much out there to read.
Yeah.
So when I hear of a Southern Gothic book, I try to, get on top of it and read it. But in terms of suspense, I love it. And I've read not as much as you, Kimberly, I think, but a lot. But to try to stay on top of my particular genre is really challenging because there's not that much out there.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. So I'm kind of like,
you're leading the pack, baby.
Yes. Woo. I could be a big fish in a little pond.
So tell me though, because I know I've asked you this a million times and I know the answer, but explain what Southern Gothic is, because I didn't know that before I discovered your books.
Right.
And I just read a really good Southern Gothic, so I'm going to put it.
Oh, what did you read? Recommend
it. Remains. It just came out. The Nature of Remains.
That sounds familiar.
It just came out. She did a talk with Jocelyn Jackson for, is it the Decatur Library?
Right.
Really nice. It's her first book. She won an award, and that's how it
sounds so familiar to me. I want to Google it. Yeah, so Southern Gothic, it's kind of hard to explain, but it really is. If you start with the Gothic genre being like the Bronte sisters, Wuthering Heights, and like a haunted crumbling castle and a maiden running away in her white nightgown and, a villain. And it's got all these sort of melodramatic emotions and stormy night. And so you have like, and possibly ghosts, maybe or maybe not, and so you have all these elements of Gothic. And then when you translate it to the South, you're talking about a South that was once, this powerhouse and but for nefarious reasons, and now has since kind of crumbled and is not what it used to be. And that's when you start thinking of like Flannery O'Connor and William Faulkner and all that kind of creepy, crumbly Southern stuff. But I mean, I find it so interesting because I feel like Southern Gothic is changing and transforming every day, because the South is not just this one place anymore. And it's like Atlanta is one thing, and Birmingham is something else, and New Orleans is something else. And so it really can be a million things, but I think it always has in common like maybe a spooky house, and there might be some like religious overtones and some creepy, ghostly stuff. And yeah, that's my that's my short definition of it. But yeah, I could talk about it forever because I find it really, really fascinating. So
yeah, no, I love a good Southern Gothic.
Oh yeah,
I like a ghost story, kind of creepy, but maybe a little hope towards the end.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
And it's always messed up people.
Yeah, I love a good messed up person.
Yeah.
Makes me feel less messed up. But Plus, it's fun. You see a messed up person, and you're like, well, would I make the same decisions if I was in that position? And then it makes you think more and get into the the mind of the character.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, blanking out.
Did you guys, speaking of Gothics,
Yes.
have you guys seen the new book that's coming out, The Mexican Gothic? Is it called Mexican Gothic?
Ooh,
Yes.
Google that.
I cannot wait for that book.
Okay.
It is already pre-ordered and like, I can't wait. I think it comes out next week.
Yeah, I've got it pre-ordered too. And I mean, just on the basis of creepy old house in
Ooh,
Mexico. And
That's
the
a pretty
cover.
cover.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
gorgeous.
Yes.
30th.
Yeah. So Gothic can be translated to like anything and anywhere. But I mean, Kimberly, you tell Southern stories, but they're more based on like domestic and like relationships in the home. And they're almost more real to life than like a Southern Gothic, which is like a little over the top and, you know.
Yeah. And, you know, and I tend to constantly, I don't do it on purpose, but my books always kind of come back to this husband-wife relationship. And I don't know where that comes from because I've been happily married forever. But it's one of those things that just fascinates me because like there's so much potential conflict there. You know, you choose a partner when you're young and you know, innocent, and you have all these great dreams, and then you know, get married, and what's going to happen if that person betrays you or lies somehow? Or what if it's, you know, 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road? I just think that is such a great starting point for a story. And so my stories always kind of go back to that.
And I loved that element in Stranger in the Lake, where it's not black and white. Like, so I don't want to give us a spoiler away, but Charlotte has to like kind of go along with something her husband has said to the cops, I think. And it's not, I mean, it's a very gray area, and she really trusts him, and they really love each other, and they have a very true, honest bond. But she like has to make this choice, like, I know he must have a good reason for saying this. Mm-hmm. And I love that. I thought that was really, really like fascinating.
Thank you. And and that's also kind of why I put her in the situation she was, and him being so much wealthier. And, you know, I mean, that muddies the waters too, because like as soon as she says, I don't trust you, I don't believe you, she loses this sparkly new life that she got. And so, you know, that really like messes with her head and influences the way she thinks about things. And she has to figure out how to separate the money part from the do I believe and love my husband part. Mm-hmm. And it's not that easy. So
yeah. And I like the mystery. It wasn't as obvious.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Yeah. I like that. I do. I like it when I can't figure it quite out by the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Yay. Well, then I've done my job, right? Because that's one thing Emily and I talk about a lot, is like how smart readers are, and they're especially the ones who are reading a lot in this genre. They've kind of seen and heard it all by now. And how do you keep surprising them? And how do you make your ending come out of the blue enough to be fair, but not too much that it's like, what? You know, the bad guy can't jump out of the closet on the last page. Mm-hmm. It has to be,
it can't be a new character that you just introduced.
Right. Exactly. You have to build all these things in, but how do you do it in a way that the reader, really smart readers, don't see it coming? It's really hard.
It's really hard. And I will say too, that I have just sort of tried to take that pressure off of myself as I'm writing, that I'll just say, look, you know, people are going to a certain percentage of readers are going to figure this out. And so,
right? There are only so many people in the book. Somebody's going to guess who it is.
Exactly. So how do I make this journey still really fun and cool for them and still have some really cool twists and maybe things they didn't think about or reasons or, just something extra? Because there's no way that you're going to fool these people are damn smart.
Yeah.
They are really smart. So
it's true. And I think sometimes, and we've talked about this as well, like sometimes we as authors as a whole haven't really done ourselves any favors because this latest trend, it's been a few years now, of like these crazy endings, over the top endings.
Right.
Yes.
Which, it's fun when you read one or two, but when everybody's like trying to outdo themselves with these crazy endings, I'm not sure we're doing the genre any favors.
No. I personally would rather just read something straightforward, like, okay, here's the bad guy, but like have it be the process getting there, just really being able to feel the emotions of the characters.
Yeah.
And their fear or their
How they were driven to commit crime.
Yeah. I was going to add that too, like the connection with the characters, because like when they can do something and you totally get it and it really resonates, that for me is what makes a book stick, not so much.
I don't need a big twist to add on to that. Like it's not always, you don't always need that, I think. Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Totally.
So what kind of writers are you guys? Are you, I know we've talked about this before, pantsers, plotters, that kind of thing?
I am a plotter. What genre is it considered? Which one?
Which book? Strange in the Lake or?
Stranger in the Lake is a domestic suspense.
Yeah, domestic noir.
And my book is, I call it Southern Gothic suspense. So they're both suspense books, but there's a lot of different branches.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but back to the question, what was it? Oh, I'm a plotter. Yeah. I plot everything out and I have a full outline, like scene by scene before I write the first word. I'm a little OCD that way. And, things change as I'm writing. Like some of the scenes might get shuffled up a little bit, but it pretty much, I've never changed an ending.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much stick to my outline. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
it's so true, Leslie. It's so true.
Very true.
That's right.
And I'm kind of the opposite. I have changed endings, and I mean, I plan to a point, but it's a bare sketch, and sometimes it's just in my head, just kind of the main highlights of the story.
Yeah.
And I do know in my head how I want it to end, but sometimes I change, like I've changed who the villain is before.
Wow.
But I like to call it discovery writing because I feel like I'm not just like jumping in and going, woo, I hope I figure out something good today. I do have a plan, but I feel like I allow myself to discover like how to get from point A to B. And sometimes it does take me some time. I have to stop and think like, ooh, I didn't think about what her job is going to be. Now I have to go on a walk and figure out and think through like, what's her job? What is she,
Yeah. I have that some with my characters because my outline is very plot centric. So as I'm filling it in and writing it, I'm really filling in a lot on the characters.
Yeah.
I kind of have a basic idea when I start, but so I do have to do a lot of thinking. But like Emily and she writes very different. She just like pounds it out, like boom, boom, boom. And I mean, you can write a book in like a first draft in, I don't know, a couple months.
Yeah.
2 since we've been in quarantine. Two whole books.
But they're really messy and ragged, and like you're like, did a 5-year-old just write this?
And I've just now, this book is the fastest I've ever written a book, and it's going to be a 4-monther for me, which normally it takes me double that time. But I mean, I am, because I'm working from an outline and I'm a slow writer, like 700 to 1,000 words a day is kind of my sweet spot. And when I'm done, when I hit like the end and I'm ready to send it to my beta readers, it really doesn't need that much. I mean, it needs work. It still needs editing, but it's ready to show people.
So are you talking about?
Mine is a horrific, scary monster.
Well, you got the story out. And you know what? Here's what I've learned too, talking to many writers, and now I'm on book number 7. Everybody has their own process, and there's no right or wrong to it. I'm always dying to hear how other authors do it, and I want to pick their brains on like, well, how do you do this and how do you do that? But in the end, I have to pick the parts that work for me and let the rest go. So,
Kimberly, were you talking about Stranger the Lake is the fastest book you've ever written, or the one you're currently writing?
No, the one I'm currently writing now.
Which I remember you saying last year that Stranger in the Lake was your fastest book that you've ever written.
Really? Did I say that? I feel like Stranger in the Lake. Stranger in the Lake, maybe I wrote it fast and then I needed a bunch of editing. That might have been because it ended up needing more work.
I think it was like this time last year that you were here. It was similar, but you just finished it.
Yeah.
Your first draft.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember that. I do remember all the edits though.
So I guess you're writing faster with each book.
Yeah, and I think part of it too has been this pandemic, and I've been pretty much in quarantine since mid-March, and I started writing in March. So, I mean, it's been a nice distraction for me. I'm kind of, now that I'm nearing the end of this draft, I'm kind of getting a little nervous about like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with myself all day? Once it's done, I mean, it'll definitely I know. Do like Emily does and just write the next one.
Just start another one.
That sounds like a great plan. Oh my goodness. So, Emily, let's talk about your book a little bit. How long did it take you to write that one?
I have no idea. Okay. I don't know. I don't remember.
It's been so long ago.
It really is a blur. And if I don't like write it down when I started and when I finish, it does all kind of blur together. But I mean, it's generally like I'm generally like a 3-month, and that's like a really good, I have a really good version ready to go at 3 months. And
that's super fast.
But that's just because of because I write it really fast. Like you said, Kimberly, it's like I'm telling myself the story. And it's almost like I have this weird little panicky feeling like if I don't get it out fast enough, I'm going to lose.
Disappear.
Yeah, which I know I'm not, but for some reason I get very anxious about it, and I just have to write it really fast. But yeah, so it was like 3 months, and then the editing of this one, thank goodness, was I had a much more leisurely pace with my publisher, because it wasn't my other book, Until the Day I Die, came out in March of 2019, and this one's not until October. So I had some extra time to kind of, I think they were thinking, it might be good kind of around Halloween and just that kind of spooky time. So I had like a little, it was a little more leisurely, and it was really nice to be able to just kind of take my time with the edits and stuff, because it would, a lot of the story I had to match up to Honeysuckle Girls. And then also some of the stuff in the 1930s was just, it was kind of research heavy. So I had to do a lot of research about like tent evangelism and like the healing, like kind of crusades that they went on, and just what that was like. And it's set in Florence, Alabama, which is a northwest Alabama. So I went up to Florence and just kind of like walked around the town and found the house that I was going to use. And so, yeah, it was really fun in terms of research. So
I
I
love
would
it.
spend so much time on research and not actually write anything because I love researching things.
Oh,
but
it's so fun. Yeah.
yeah, you get lost in it. You go down rabbit holes. Mhm.
Oh, you find like some of the best things. Also, too, I had like, it was so fun to discover like a little throwaway character that I had mentioned like maybe once in Honeysuckle Girls that I turned into a whole live living character with a whole arc, and that was really fun to feel like it was almost like destiny, you know, this little character that is being brought to life now. That was really, really fun. And he was a cute guy too. So
I'm looking forward to reading it. I'm looking forward to selling it because I've sold quite a few of Honeysuckle Girl. So people would be excited to read a sequel.
I hope so. I had fun returning to some of the characters. So
Kimberly, you ever think about writing a sequel to your books?
I get asked that a lot, but my answer is kind of always no. Well,
Why?
partly it's because, you know, of the domestic suspense and, you know,
Only
like
so much crappy things can happen to one person in a
right. Like, what else am I going to put poor Charlie through, right? You know, I mean, she's already done. So if I ever did a sequel, it would probably be with like, you know, a different character and come up with something. But I don't know.
So it's kind of like watching those like British mystery shows where, you know, it's a sweet idyllic town and all these murders keep happening and you're like, no.
Way too many murders per capita in that tiny little, you know.
If those little tiny little hamlets have that many murders, what's it look like in the rest of the world?
Like, how about you move to a different town?
It's troubling.
Here we go. Here's the comment. Can't wait to read Butterfly Girls and Hawthorn Sisters for all of Alabama references.
Yes.
Honeysuckle Girls. Honeysuckle
Girls. That's okay. We can. That's cool. Oh yeah, there's a ton of. I include like some good Dreamland barbecue references and a lot of places in Florence and Muscle Shoals, and yeah, I've got some good. Got some good Alabama, and you know, I always have to include. Everybody always gets mad at me, so I kind of switch it off. But like, if the villain in one of my books is for Alabama, and the villain is have gone to Auburn, so I gotta like. That's always a moment for me. I'm like, is the villain going to be wearing his Crimson Tide t-shirt or his War Eagle t-shirt?
That's hilarious. Things that I never once in my entire life think about when I'm writing.
Yeah.
Dreamland, educate me.
Dreamland Barbecue, they have one actually up in Roswell, but the first one started in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and it was just like basically a shack in the middle of the woods. And all they served, now they serve more, but all they served, like back in the 80s when I went, it was ribs and Wonder Bread, and that was it. And that, like, that's all you get.
But I bet it was good.
Was so good. It was so good. But yeah, so I did in my research, I definitely I set part of the story in Tuscaloosa in the old state Alabama mental hospital, which is closed down now, but I went to go peek in the windows because it's part of the campus of University of Alabama. So I was peeking in the windows and it was very, very spooky. And then I went to Dreamland for some barbecue.
I love it.
Yeah.
So where do you guys, I know this is a cliche question, but everybody wants to know, where do you all get your inspiration from?
Everywhere and nowhere. I mean, it's, I'll pick up a story, or I'll think up a story based on something I read in the paper or hear on the news. Yeah, everywhere really. Although I did have with Dear Wife, that came to me in the middle of the night. Like, I don't know, I call it a gift from the writing gods. I don't know where it came from, but it just like presented itself to me in the middle of the night, and it woke me up, and I stared at the ceiling and watched it play like a movie across my, yeah, it's crazy. And if I could figure out how to do it again, I would for sure. But yeah, it was, one of those gifts, but the rest is, a lot of brainstorming, a lot of reading and thinking and combing obscure, weird websites for, some ideas and cold cases. I mean, everywhere. How about you, Emily?
Well, I mean, yeah, that. But I will also say that I have a lot of ideas, and I think getting the idea is less of a problem than actually working it into a workable book. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can get a great idea, but then you realize, well, it's not really an entire story. It's a setting. It's just a part. And then that's when the work comes in, when you have to say, so for instance, with reviving the Hawthorn Sisters, which was a carryover from Honeysuckle Girls, I just had a fascination with these like tent evangelists and revivalists that I read a bunch of stories, and a lot of them, they were con people. They were like taking in money and faking stuff and faking healings and faking miracles. And this was going on, during the Depression, and people were giving them money. And it was just such a scam playing on the hopes and the fears and that people were feeling in that desperate time. So you have something like that, and then you're like, okay, so then what's the story? Like, who are the characters and what's happened, and what, there's so much more you have to build around this idea that's the tough part.
Well, it's the same thing, like musicals were so popular during the Depression.
Right.
Escapism. So I can totally understand that they wanted religious escapism as well.
For sure.
Didn't Steve Martin do a movie about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He did. I think I saw it a long time ago, but I really wanted to make sure that I wasn't mocking them or making fun of them in any way. And so, and I hope that I did that. I hope that I treated them with respect, because the Hawthorn Sisters are these two teenage girls who've kind of teamed up, and they take their little act on the road, and they get very popular. And one of them is just 100% a true believer, and the other one is maybe not so sure. And so I wanted to kind of delve into that, like, is it real? Is it not real? Are people healed because they want to be healed, and it's that mind-body connection, or, those age-old questions we have about, who is God and what does he do?
Yeah. But you said, back to the original question, you said something on Instagram the other day, and I commented on it. Do you remember what it was? It was something about how the idea, when it comes to you in your head, is like this perfect idea.
Oh, you can envision the book. The book, before it is actually written, is so perfect. It's just beautiful, and you can see it, and you kind of know the tone of it, and like you hear the music, and like you see the the characters. It's so perfect before it is written.
I love that. I thought it was so true. And the key is, like, because it's a multi-month endeavor. The key is like, how do you carry that feeling the whole time you're writing it? It's hard.
Well, it's kind of like children. Before you have them, they're perfect.
They sound really great on paper.
And then after that, they're just people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they can be real assholes.
Yes.
I love my kids. I just want to throw that out there.
Especially when you're cooped up in the house with them for, like 2 months.
But you know what? Books can be real assholes too.
Yeah, it's true.
True.
It's true.
Books are kind of like people, they have a character and they have flaws, and it's just an extension of you guys. So yeah, books are people too.
Yes, they are. That's a good one.
So I love that if you look over in our comments, everybody's still talking about barbecue.
Apparently it's really delicious.
So let's see what we got here. We got Kimberly. It's like Atlanta varsity equivalent.
Yeah.
Sandy, there's one in Duluth. Did you know that?
A Dreamland.
Yeah.
I had no idea. I know there's one in Roswell, but can I say the one in Roswell is not as good as the one in Tuscaloosa, Alabama?
Maybe it's water. And then Sandy says that City Barbecue is good. They're pretty good. They're right in our shopping center.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
You have to eat there. Well,
we know how the South feels about their barbecue. Everybody has their.
Okay, this video is not sponsored by barbecue.
Yeah.
But it's really making me crave barbecue. Maybe I'll go over to City Barbecue.
No, I'm hungry.
Oh my goodness. So, who were your all's influences when you were kids? Like, who did you read? Like, was there a special person who really pushed you to be a writer?
Not for me. I didn't even know I wanted to be a writer until much, much, much later. I mean, I was always in
third careers for you guys, right?
Sorry?
This is like the second or third career for you guys, right?
It's my second, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a person. I always liked writing, but as a kid, I didn't understand that, you could be a writer too. Like, I just felt like, I don't know what I thought. I just thought that was not something within my reach. But I mean, I did want to write books, and I tried to write I tried to start writing a lot when I was 14. I was always writing a story about a 14-year-old girl that had a horse, because guess what? I didn't have a horse. And I felt as though I deserved one. But for me, growing up, reading Nancy Drew, and I read all the time. So anytime I read a really great book and got lost in it, that made me want to be a writer. I just didn't know how to get to that point. Mm-hmm.
And I think, looking back, knowing what I knew when I first started this career, the writing career, I'm not sure I would go back and I wouldn't change anything. I think that the career that I had before this, I worked in fundraising, and it gave me the skills and the tough skin and all those things that you need in order to succeed in this business, or to even just survive in this business. Because writing fiction books is really a bonkers business.
Yeah.
It's cuckoo bonkers.
Yeah. And I would say too, I feel like I'm glad I started writing at an older age, because I feel like I have evolved as a person. I have more to say, and I'm a very different person now than I was when I was 20 or even 30.
Yep.
And I like who I am now better, right? I feel like I've sort of expanded my worldview, and I feel like that makes me a way better writer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing we always say, I'm glad they didn't have Snapchat when I was, 18. I'm glad I didn't publish a novel when I was, 23, because I don't, there's no telling.
Yeah, the stories would have been very different for sure.
Yeah.
Probably even a different genre.
For sure. And like, I don't know. I just
What genre would you have written if you'd published earlier?
I mean, I probably would have tried something like much lighter for sure. Not that my life has gotten darker per se, but I guess I've matured and I've seen more and understand more of the world to see the dark side. And so I think if I had started, even 10 years earlier than when I did, it would have been much lighter and fluffier stuff.
Yeah.
Which is great. I love reading that stuff. But I think that like the place where I am now, the genre that I write in is the perfect spot for me.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Emily?
Yeah, I think I would have definitely, the first book I did write was a rom-com, like a chick book. And I still love the idea of it, but I don't think I was meant to write that kind of thing. And I think there's a reason that book is in a drawer. But I love that stuff. Like, man, Sleepless in Seattle and While You Were Sleeping and, every single rom-com movie. And then Bridget Jones, I remember reading Bridget Jones and being like, this is the best thing in the world. Like, I would love to write something that made people laugh and made them happy, but I'm not that funny.
Did you write about ghosts and murders?
Instead, I creep them out and I scare them. Yeah.
My teenage boys think rom-coms are scary, so.
That's true.
They're so hard to write. I have immense respect for people.
No kidding.
That kind of stuff. Like we were talking about Emily Henry and Beach Read, the witty banter. Oh my gosh, that is really hard to write.
And like, one of the plot devices in this book is that she's trying to come up with the perfect meet cute.
Yeah.
I mean, how hard is that?
Yeah.
Really hard.
Yes, very hard. Like so hard that I could not figure out how to do it.
So what's some advice you guys could give to aspiring writers?
Well, I think one piece of my advice would be what I already mentioned about how everybody has their own process, and find your process and don't listen to how others do it so much, thinking that you have to do it that way. I'm really bad about, on Twitter when writers are like, I read 5,000 words today. And I'm like, and it gets to me. It still gets to me. And I have to tell myself, like, that's not your process.
You do it.
Fine. Yeah. What about you?
I think one of the most important things for new writers is to, like you were talking about earlier, to get that thick skin, to really brace yourself and learn to love criticism. And I mean like helpful criticism, not mean people being mean or trolling you, but like looking at your work and actually saying, like, I don't understand this, or this needs to be strengthened, or this is awkward, and not letting that hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
But just sort of like leaning into it. And because it'll make you a better writer. Because, I mean, ultimately, you are writing for other people to enjoy a story. And if for some reason something you're doing is making them not enjoy the story, it, behooves you to listen to that and to kind of take that in and improve. So I think like it's just really good to learn how to take criticism and to process it. And
from the right people, like find your team. I mean, with us, it's our editors, our agents, whatever.
Right.
When you're first starting out, find your critique partners, your beta readers, and people you really trust, and think of it kind of like a team effort. I mean, you're pulling the cart, but they want you to succeed just as much as you want to succeed.
Right.
But it is painful. Sometimes it really hurts,
Yeah.
Okay, Leslie says, what is better than ghosts and murders? How else are 40-somethings supposed to get their stress out? I can really kill anybody.
That's true. That is correct. Very wise.
All right, guys. Thank you for joining us today. Everybody should buy copies of Stranger Than Lake, and when Emily's new book comes out, that one, or Until the Day I Die, or in just any of the books that they write, because they got lots and they're all good. I've got a couple here.
Thank you.
Some more.
Upside down. Oop. Yeah. Oh.
Emily, I was all sold out of all your books.
Yay!
Yeah.
That works.
Anyway, so if you don't buy them from us, I'm sure you should buy them from an independent bookstore. But if you buy them from us, I'm pretty sure I can get them autographed.
Yeah, for sure.
They live relatively close, so we can make it happen. So support your independent bookstores. Buy Emily and Kimberly's books. And well, thanks for joining us, guys.
Thanks for having us. Next time, can we do it in person?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Maybe in October when Emily's book comes out.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Well,
hopefully we can. Yes, fingers crossed.
All right,
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. All right, saying goodbye. Bye.